take this anymore. They were rejecting the self-serving lies, numbing incompetence, and partisan greed that have put a stranglehold on government progress. To express their outrage, some Republicans rallied around so-called outsiders with no political experience, no detailed policies, and wacky ideas subversive to the very Constitution that they would be required to swear to uphold. Electing any of them would be like asking the balloon clown at a children's birthday party to start juggling chainsaws. But electing these symbolic naïfs was never the point. The real point was letting Washington know that a lot of people were out of patience with the status quo. When I was a child, I remember adults complaining that voting often came down to selecting the lesser of two evils. I still hear that today. But while it feels cathartic to blame elected officials and demonize them for their many failings, the sad truth is that we voters are the real villains in this story. Our profound laziness and unyielding arrogance as voters have allowed our system to become polluted by hucksters, egomaniacs, dimwits, and Mac Daddy pimps willing to rent out their stable of votes. Worse, we often ignore the evidence of such corruption. Well, the bad news is that Americans are going to have to rethink their criteria for electing our leaders if we want to have a realistic hope of turning the system around. David Foster Wallace is said to have titled his first novel, The Broom of the System, after a saying of his great-grandmother's that if someone was feeling sick, they should eat an apple because an apple was the broom of the system, cleansing the insides. If we really want American politics to improve, then American voters will have to start the process by becoming more educated about the facts, more critical in our thinking, and more demanding of our elected officials. We are going to have to become the brooms of the system, cleansing politics from the inside out. The Baboons of Babel: How Politicians Undermine Democracy. Not all politicians are Frank Underwood wannabes. A precious few take the principle of public service seriously and work tirelessly to improve the country, while the majority of other, less dedicated politicians throw banana peels and nails at their bare feet. Sound too harsh? Like warmed over, stick it to the man, power to the people, give peace a chance rhetoric? Actually, it's not nearly harsh enough. According to a Princeton University and Northwestern University study in 2014 that examined 21 years of data, the top 10% of Americans in terms of wealth have influence over what Congress does, while the bottom 90% have little or no influence whatsoever. The study claimed that any proposal that a small majority of the people support has a 30% chance of becoming law, and that any proposal that an overwhelming majority of the people support has just a 43% chance of becoming law. Whether Americans support or condemn an issue has no real impact on legislation. The researchers concluded the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact on public policy. That's an emphatic middle finger to our democratic ideal of the will of the people. The Princeton Northwestern study also found that in the previous 5-year period, the top 200 politically active companies in the U.S. spent $5.8 billion on lobbying and campaign contributions. As a result, those companies received $4.4 trillion in subsidies and taxpayer support, which is 750 times what they spent. Typically, members of Congress spend 30 to 70% of their time in office on fundraising, and because only 0.05% of Americans donate more than $10,000 in any election, politicians are more likely to do what a few generous donors want. Here's how that works specifically. In July 2015, The Guardian reported that, based on internal correspondence, ExxonMobil Company's own researchers had confirmed the existence of climate change more than 3 decades ago. Yet the company spent millions of dollars over the next 30 years to convince the public otherwise. One of the country's leading environmentalists, Bill McKibben, referred to this as unparalleled evil that has set the world back decades in combating the problem. It's not that politicians didn't know about climate change. A recent survey of studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals found that 97% of actively publishing climate scientists